This video will show you how to use QuPath to open electron microscopy images, and specifically electron microscopy images that are very large and are generated by a software at MSL called SerialEM. So QuPath is a fantastic open source free piece of software that you can download from the internet. So if you just Google QuPath, it'll take you to this website. You can download the version for whatever operating system you have, and there's extensive documentation online. I just want to show you a few things that are useful for what I mentioned before. Large stitched transmission electron microscopy images generated MSL using a software called SerialEM. So once you have QuPath, you just double click to open it. It has a few default things that it opens whenever you open the software, which you will see in a moment. Um, it has this welcome thing that you can decide whether or not to show on startup. I'm just going to say get started. And it asks you whether you want to open the QuPath extensions manager. I'm just going to say no. So this is what QuPath looks like. You can drag and drop an image file in here. So I have two examples that I'm going to use in this demo. One is a single very large image that was generated by tiling many images. The other is a series of images, each of which was the tile, which had multiple images tiled in it. So this will become a little bit clearer in a moment. So if I grab this single image and drag it in here, QuPath will open it. Now, QuPath is extraordinarily efficient, so you can open images from your local hard drive. You can do that even if the image is much bigger than your RAM. I've done this on my laptop, which is not very powerful, for images that are definitely more than my RAM, and I've had no problems. You can also open from a server folder. If you do so, you might notice a slight lag as pixels are loaded in and out, but aside from that, it operates very, very smoothly. So the first thing when you drag an image into QuPath is it asks you what kind of image this is. This is an other image. It's not a fluorescence image. It's an image generated with a transmission electron microscope. And then I'm just going to say apply. I'm going to maximize this so you can see fully the field of view. So you can see this image looks a little bit washed out. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to adjust the brightness and contrast and what are good practices for doing so. So the button that you need to press to access the brightness and contrast is here. And you'll see in electron microscopy images that there are usually uh, kind of one or two peaks in the histogram. So this histogram is a histogram of all the pixel intensities in the image. So if we hover at any point, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, there are coordinates. Those are the top two numbers. And then there's a number below that, which is the pixel intensity. So if I hover here on this grid bar, you'll see that that is a very low number because it's very dark. If I hover here on this bright spot, that's a very high number. And so this is for all the pixels in the image, of which there are many. uh, this is a histogram. And so you see that there's a cluster of pixels that are very low. Those correspond to this grid bar, and then a cluster of pixels that are much higher, and that corresponds to all the things that we are interested in. So when you're setting this up, what you want is your channel maximum to be close to the right-hand side of this, and your channel minimum to be close to the left-hand side of this. If you don't have it that way, the image can look quite washed out. And if you overdo it, it can look very kind of crusty, for lack of a better term. You don't want it to look like that, and you don't want it to look like this. You want to have a nice balance of all the values that you care about, which are sort of the values inside this. And whether you set it here or here, that's up to you. I wouldn't mess with gamma unless you know in detail what you're doing. I'm not going to cover that in any detail further in this video. So you've seen already one of the adjustments that I did was to zoom in. So how did I do that? Just using the scroll wheel of the mouse. And it has this nice feature where wherever you point is where it zooms in. So I pointed at this object, so it zoomed in there. If I point at this object, it zooms in. As you zoom in, you can see that it dynamically changes the size of this scale bar, and the images that we provide from the Microscopy Services Lab, that scale bar will be correct. So that'll give you a reference for how big things are. Now let's say that you're zoomed in and you want to pan around. The way you do that is you left click and drag, and that allows you to move in the image dynamically and very smoothly. And again, this works very well even if the image is not stored locally on your hard drive and even if your computer is not particularly fast. Again, this is an extraordinarily efficient piece of software that works really, really well with these large images. Um, let's say you have this image and you want to take a snapshot. There are sort of two ways of taking snapshots. One is to literally take a snapshot of the screen, which you can do by coming here and saying send snapshot to image J. If you do that, you will get something that is exactly this window. So it takes a snapshot of that window and it does not take it at higher resolution. If you zoom in, you can see this level of pixelation. That's the level of pixelation I have on the screen. Now you may want to do something different, which is to take a higher resolution view of some particular subset of the sample and then add a scale bar that's not this transparent one. Maybe you don't like that scale bar, you want to add something different. So how do you do that? So the way you do that is you um, create a rectangle in the particular region that you want to get a snapshot of. Let's say it's going to be this region. And then you click here and you say send region to image J. Importantly, if you want the full resolution, this parameter resolution needs to be set to 1 and the resolution unit needs to be set to pixels. That'll ensure you that you get the full resolution information in Fiji. These controls I'm not going to go over. They have to do with whether if you've made a bunch of annotations, you port them to Fiji or not. So I'm not going to cover that in this video. If you say OK, you will now see that this image has the full resolution detail of this region that we created here. So it has a lot of pixels because this is a very high resolution image. And critically, you can see that it knows the dimensions. That allows us then to create a scale bar because Fiji, or image J in this case, it knows the size of the pixels. So if we go to Analyze, Tools, Scale Bar, we can add a scale bar to this image and it will be properly calibrated. Now, because these images tend to have so many pixels, you typically need to make the thickness of this scale bar a little bit bigger. So instead of 4 pixels, maybe we want to do 25 pixels. Maybe that's too much, we'll do 20. You typically want a bigger font size, so maybe we need to do 36. And you can control the width to whatever you want. So maybe you want this to be 0.5 microns, okay? If you leave this on overlay, the scale bar will be something that is floating above the sample. If you remove overlay, it will get burned in when you say okay, and then you won't be able to move it. And you can control, where it goes here. So once you say, let's say okay, then this image, you can, copy paste it, take it somewhere else, put into a figure, whatever you might want to do. Okay. So that covers how to adjust brightness and contrast, some basic navigation, how to take snapshots and take them to um, image J. So let me show you one other thing, which is related to sort of opening images and navigating through them, which is this is one giant image where you can see we took tiles of this size on the microscope and then we stitched them all together. Note that there are these differences in brightness here. You can talk to the MSL staff if you're concerned about that. There's a reason why that looks that way. But sometimes instead of doing one gigantic image like this, we may take multiple groups of tiled images uh, and they're all in one file. So let me show you what that means. So this is a multiple images SerialEM image. So close single image, yes, I want to close this one and I want to open the new one. It's another type of image. You can see that this looks weird. It's completely white. And then another difference is that here it has a thing that says Z. So the reason it looks weird is it's not properly set in brightness and contrast. So we're going to fix that now by clicking here. And you can see that this is completely messed up. So we're just going to hit Auto. And that actually did a pretty good job. Now, it doesn't always do a good job. And so if it doesn't do the job that you want, you can adjust these manually to, again, try to shoot for the edges of where most of the pixels are, and that'll give you a pretty good starting point. Now, regarding this, what you can do is click, and this will take you to different images in the series. So the other image didn't have a Z control because it was only one gigantic image. This, you can see here, each one, like this is roughly the size of one tile. It wasn't as many tiles as the other one, but we took these over multiple locations. If you notice things like this, these are typical artifacts because it's trying to stitch the images together in a software we used before we give you this file, and it has trouble stitching where there's sort of no features. Okay, so that's why you can sometimes see things like this. Um, okay, so let me end with showing you how to make some basic measurements and make some basic selections here. So let me go maybe to this one. So what kinds of measurements can you make? So you can make all sorts of measurements which are based on annotations. So if we go to the annotation section, we can draw things on the image, which we can draw dots, we can draw freehand circles, squares, lines, and then it can measure things in those circles, squares, lines, or whatever you might have. So let's say, for example, that we care about the diameter of things like this. We can, over the longer axis, we can draw a line, and that'll appear in our annotations list. If we want to go back to drawing another line here, we can either click here, or if you click the scroll wheel, it will switch back to the last tool, and then you can draw there. And let's say we also want to draw here, so I'm just going to draw another one. So I've clicked the scroll wheel, and maybe here. I'm just making this up. I don't know if those are actually interesting places to draw things, but now I have 4 objects that are lines. And if I go to measure, show annotation measurements, you can see here are the 4 objects with a little thumbnail and with a list of what the lengths were, because these are lines. I can save this, these table contents. I can show a plot, which will be a histogram. This is of, a histogram of the length. This is not very interesting. We only have 4 dots. You can look at scatter plots of different things. This is, length, and they're all in this Z slice, so that's not particularly interesting. I'm going to show you a scatter plot of something more interesting in a second, but you can see very quickly you can get a lot of information. So let me show you uh, another tool. I'm going to delete these. I want to delete those objects. So we can do something like free draw. Maybe we want to free draw around these objects. So I'm left clicking and then I'm releasing when I'm done. Then I'm clicking on the scroll wheel and doing that again. And I'm just, again, sort of making up what I'm identifying for analysis. I don't know if any of these things are particularly interesting. This is just for the sake of having some objects to show you. I'll do that one. And then I'll switch. I'll maybe make, I'll draw this object, which you can see is very different, but I just want to make a point about some of the measurements. Okay. All right, so I have this. I can then, again, go to measure and say show annotation measurements. And you can see here are all the objects. And for each one, now I have a perimeter and an area. And if I show plots and a scatter plot of area and perimeter, you can see that one of these is an outlier, that one, uh, which is the one that had a very large perimeter. Okay, and you can select, individual ones, and it'll kind of mark them. So if you click on that one, you can see it's this one. It's in yellow, which makes it hard to see, but just trust me that on my screen you can see that. Okay, one final thing I want to show you, which is I've shown you how to draw with lines. I've shown you how to free draw. There's one other tool that can often be very useful, which is the wand. So the wand, if you click, it will select things nearby that have a similar gray value. So this is really useful for clicking on objects that are of a particular gray value and separated for other things. So for example, these vacuoles, if I click here and then I just move it a little bit, it detects it automatically without me having to draw, because that's an object where there are things nearby that have very similar intensities. There we go. It also works for things like this, which are sort of isolated from things nearby, or for things that are very dark and on a background. So that can be, I'm going to click on the middle button. Those can be very quick and useful ways of drawing around things that are quite complicated, as long as those complicated things have very similar intensities in the pixels, meaning the gray intensity or the white intensity or the back intensity across the object that you are interested in is very similar. So I hope this gives you an introduction to what you can do with QuPath as you get SerialEM images from the Microscopy Services Lab. As always, if you have any questions, please let us know and we will try and help you out.